Hello.
There we go. Hi, Victoria.
Good.
I think you said something.
I think I did too. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. How are you?
Doing okay.
I feel like I haven't seen you forever.
At least a week, yeah.
Is it at least a week?
Exactly a week. A week and an hour.
Wow. Well,
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little stressed, but I'm good. I'm good.
Stressed over what?
I don't know. The world. I need to solve all the world problems and it's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked for a news organization for a while. I was on the board.
Sheesh.
They're still going. I started their Threats to Democracy section.
Wow. Really?
Yep, and it's still going strong.
Good for you. It's pretty amazing. I love hearing about what everyone's done. It's just, it's so cool.
It's called whowhatwhy.org.
Who, what, why? I'm gonna check
And
that
instead
out.
of reacting daily to things, they think and do research and go ask hard questions of people. And so you get news that's not as biased by the daily misinformation.
Yeah.
And from the press releases that people put out.
Yeah. That's good because there's so much shenanigans. You don't know who to believe anymore.
It's funny and hard hitting at the same time.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, hi, Bridget. How are you?
Well, I'm pretty sick.
Uh-oh.
But nothing serious. So did the meeting start earlier than 8? I had 8 on the thing you sent.
No, we're just chatting.
Yeah, we're just chatting. We're just chatting it up.
Oh, okay, because it said recording started. I was confused. Sorry.
Oh, I have it auto recorded because I forget.
It's gonna be held against us, I guess.
Through disclosure, Bridget, I forget. So I always automatically do it, and then I have to watch myself again on video as I edit it, which is horrible, and I just don't like it. But yes, so you're good. You have not missed anything exciting, and I'm sorry you're sick, but I hope you feel better.
I'm so sick. Okay, thanks. I'm going to go on mute in case I make some funny noises.
Oh, yes. Okay.
You're listed as Bridget Cough.
Yeah, the Bridget Cough. Neil, I didn't have time to prepare anything for this meeting. And since you ran the last one, is there anything that I need to do for you?
Well, other than run the meeting, no.
Okay, well, that sounds good. What do you want me to, are we showing stuff? What are we, sorry, I just got off teaching for county fire certs. And so I'm a little, what do you need me to show? Do you want me to show like the stuff people have turned in?
So last time what we agreed was we were going to go over the presentations and critique them, I think, at a high level. Critique might be too strong.
Yeah.
Right now, they all look fairly different. You know, one of the items we should probably discuss is, do we care? Do we want a common look and feel, or is anything okay?
Okay. That works.
And then there's, let's see, I haven't looked at Janice's yet, but there seems to be 2 different styles of how people chose to do things.
Okay.
And it's, one is sticking pretty closely to the handbook.
Okay.
And the other one is a more conversational, not the details, but the high level.
Okay.
And I think either way is okay. It probably makes sense to see if we want to do it all the same or if it's okay to do different things for different talks.
Yeah. Okay. So is everyone's stuff in the same place in that cert folder?
Yeah, what there is.
Everyone that I saw someone turn in at least.
Can I beg you, Dave, to be the co-host and pull it up?
Sure. You gotta enable me though, because I'm disabled,
Well, I just enabled you because I don't want you disabled.
Okay.
Neil, do you want me to co-host too, Neil? If you want to do anything exciting?
Sure. My share screen looks like it's already, nope. Yeah, it looks like my share screen was already enabled.
Yeah, I just did it right now.
Well, I see breakout rooms, which hopefully I won't need. So,
Oh, no. Oh, no. That's like a horrible word, breakout rooms, when it comes to Zoom. I don't know how to do them anyway. Ugh. Let me grab my water. Oh.
Oh, yeah, we're fully featured here. Those of us in the free seats don't get nearly this many buttons on the bottom.
Well, I hope that you're enjoying it. You can do it anytime. Hello, Cars. Hello, Christine. Hey, Rick Elster. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Amita. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Sam. Oh, Elise. We got Elise too. Very nice.
Hello.
Hi. How are you, Elise?
Oh, I don't know. I hope I don't have long COVID, but
Oh, no. That's a bummer.
I get pretty tired. I was talking to my new doctor today, and my old one retired, or is in the process of retiring.
Oh, boy.
Did you have COVID?
I had COVID, but
How long ago?
about 2 weeks ago.
Well, it's too soon to have long COVID.
I don't know, but doctor said that it wasn't. It's
Uh-huh.
Kaiser.
Lucky
A
you.
lot of people are having it.
They sure are. Yeah, but I heard if you've had it and you were, pretty sick, it does take several weeks for that fatigue to go away. That's been the biggest complaint I've heard, the fatigue.
You said, oh, it's, not even a month. I said, look, I'm teaching. I want to at least get through the year.
Right. Well, we'll cross our fingers that it resolves itself sooner rather than later.
I hope so. I mean, I get very tired and well, there's some other symptoms too, but
yeah.
Thank God I was never in the hospital.
Good.
So
good. That's always a good thing. And then we've got Bill. Hi, Bill.
Hey there.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about y'all? How about you, Victoria?
I'm just doing spectacular. Thank you for asking. We've got a couple sickies on the call, so they're chilling out. At least you have company with Bridget there.
Oh, hi.
I know it's kind of not good company to have, but at least you guys are here, and I really appreciate that. You've got more willpower than I do. All right, let's get this party started here. So I'm sorry I was not at the last meeting. I had a really bad migraine, and thank goodness for Neil and Dave checking their phones as I begged them to please, please, please save me from my misery. So appreciate that. It sounds like tonight we have had some of the I'm going to call them role players. Are we calling them a certain thing?
I like trainers.
Trainers.
Me too.
Let's go with trainers. The trainers have put together presentations, and we're going to, it sounds like we're all kind of doing from what Neil has described. I haven't had a chance to look at them today. I'm sorry. I've been on calls and all kinds of crazy stuff. But it sounds like we may want to figure out exactly how we want to do the presentations. Do we want to keep them in the same kind of ideas we're presenting, the same kind of order, same kind of setup, or do we want to kind of change it up, and do we care? So it sounds like, did you guys want to just kind of start with a certain role, or what would you like to do?
As I was looking at them, I thought we should do IC first, then planning, and then probably ops.
Cool.
Or maybe IC, ops, and then planning. But those are sort of the three top end positions.
Okay, let's start with those.
So Steve, it looks like your IC overview. Do you want me to pull up the PowerPoint or the PDF? Does it matter?
How about the PDF? I know that works.
Okay. Let me get sharing turned on. Okay, should be able to see something now.
I see 2 slides.
Okay. And I wonder if I can make this bigger.
We'll have to see this.
Now, for those of you that haven't been on the calls, but maybe have hoped we've been bringing the emails, we're doing planning for the spring drill. We've decided that the drill is going to encompass review based on the surveys that we've gotten from everybody. A lot of people want to kind of go back to the basics and review. So we're going to review the roles at the ARC, maybe pull out some of the equipment and things like that. I don't know how far we've gotten in the weeds with that. But we asked everyone to take a role and to create a presentation. We're looking at 10 to 15 minutes per role. As we go around, we're all going to kind of go, do we decide we're going to go in a group, or we really haven't gotten that far yet? As far as like, are we just going to just break up and go stations? I think it depends on how many people are there, right, Neil?
Yeah, I thought we
That's what we
decided.
said.
Yeah, we decided we'd see how many people said they were going to come, and then decide whether we needed to split up or whether we were going to do them basically everybody at the same time.
Nice. Okay, cool. All right, Steve, take it away.
Okay, so I went to a training down in San Jose at the EOC, and they had an interesting format where each person coming up to talk about what they did would start with, okay, now I'm going to tell you about the most important position in ICS. And then you would hand it off to the next person who would say, okay, now I'm going to talk about the most important position, which is ops or logistics or finance. So just go with that. All right, I'm going to talk about the incident commander, the most important position in ICS. It's the most important because it's the overall emergency manager for any Cert activation. Next. So the responsibilities of the incident commander, or IC, is to the Los Altos Hills Emergency Operations Center. He's in charge of the overall management of Cert response to any given incident, and the assignment of team members to their position when they show up at the ARC. The IC is supposed to ensure that the ARC and Cert resources are used in addressing the incident, make decisions, stay calm, solicit inputs from direct reports, and inform the Cert leads of your plan and provide a status report to the EOC. Next. Okay, the command structure, incident command structure, is the incident commander is in charge of the 4 major subdivisions for any incident. And they don't all have to be staffed for any given incident, but if they are staffed, they're organized like this: the operations, planning, logistics, and finance. Now, finance we don't typically do when we do our drills, but I'm not sure how we would do that in a real incident, because we've never trained for that. In a real incident, we'd have a public information officer who's the one in charge of making sure that any press that there is doesn't get in the way of any of the operations going on. And it's the one voice to the outside world of what's going on. So there's always a consistent message through the public information officer. We have a safety officer who's making sure that we're all doing things safely and can call out any dangerous situations. Now, for any of these positions, if they're not filled, it is filled by the incident commander or anybody that he deems take over that post. Next. The IC typically is at the front door of the ARC, in the vicinity of the ARC status boards, which are on the side of the ARC. Next. Materials needed are inside a bin that's inside the ARC. This is the vest, which identifies the incident commander instantly to anybody around him. There's a log, clipboard, various forms that need to be filled out. And from the printed forms box, the IC will get the org chart, has access to the Cert roster, and the critical infrastructure list. Next. In the first hour of an action, we will open up the IC will open up the ARC, retrieve the incident commander plastic bin, which has all the materials that I talked about on the previous slide. Incident commander must then get dressed in the vest and fill in the following positions as people arrive and are capable of doing those jobs. At the beginning of the incident, we need to remove chairs, tables, status boards, barricades, and set up the ARC Incident Command Center according to the ARC map, which is inside the ARC. We will then attempt to contact the town EOC and advise the status of the ARC. Next.
Steve, let me just interrupt for a second and say that the code here is now obsolete. We've changed it. So if anyone's trying to write it down off of this, it's not right.
Do you think we should keep the code in these slides, or?
I'd like to make the slides public, so I prefer not to have the code in it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is a direct copy off of your read the docs thing. And
Well,
I was
then
actually
I could remove
noticing
it
that
from
this
that
was in the
also.
read the docs and it should be removed. Anyway,
We'll
Yeah.
make a note.
I
Cut and pasted.
think we should take it out.
Okay. I had started by taking the IC 100 course and started making my own presentation, but Neil had already done it, so I just copied from there.
yep.
So after the after the ARC has been set up and we have our staff, we'll constantly review the incident status board and zone map that are maintained by the scribe. We'll review the zone map with operations lead to perform priorities or confirm priorities that they've been assigned for staging for assignments. Act if possible on requests from the town EOC. Review and act upon the matters requiring the attention of the incident commander staff. Establish regular schedule for staff meetings. Confirm that the communications team has established a regular communications link with the town at the town EOC. Confirm that we're using the same zone map and have the same incidents and status posted. We plan the shift staffing and schedule. I'll post the schedule. Confirm going off duty time only. Yeah. Confirm going off duty leads brief. What does this even say?
Confirm going off duty leads brief the new on duty leads prior to going off duty.
Oh, leads is a noun. Got it. Make sure that the staff gets breaks to decompress, eat, hydrate, etc. Periodically assess the Cert organization chart and staff positions if necessary. Conduct any briefings for elected officials or their representatives, or pass it off to the PIO. Coordinate with the town EOC for any demobilization plan. Next. At the end, the IC packs up the vest, completed paperwork and supply items, and the incident commander Ziploc bag and put it back in the ARC. Turn the Ziploc bag over the demobilization team. That's it. Any questions?
So it's a bin now instead of a Ziploc bag. That's just one
Okay.
small minute detail.
All right. I'll update that. And I'll take the code out.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then,
wondering,
sorry, do you have the very beginning? Did you say who is the IC? It's the first person to show up the ARC, right? They take over that role until.
Okay. I'll add that. Rick?
Yeah, my questions deal with the link to the town EOC and also the zone maps question. I see two pitfalls. Is the town EOC going to actually participate in this, or the town council? And what is the situation with the zone maps? I, for one, don't know if I'm 5 or 6.
I don't have the answer to that.
I do. As far as the town EOC, there's been a large turnover in the town, as we all know, with staff. They are hiring a emergency services manager that's going to be starting hopefully no later than May.
Is that a new Marcia?
Yeah, it's going to be like a new Marcia. And one of their main roles is to get the town to train and drill with the EOC, update the things inside the EOC. So there's going to be a review and a reminder that the EOC is really their assignment. So I'm hoping and hopeful that yes, Rick, we're hoping that they will be in charge. They are government employees that are, part of being a government employee is that you are expected to be at these disaster EOCs. So yes, the answer is yes, hopefully. Zone map, to let Neil and Dave speak on that because we're working on that currently. Are you talking about your cert zone, the old cert zone, or are you talking about the new zone haven zone?
Okay, all of that.
Okay, that's what I figured. Okay. Neil and
So
Dave, want to answer to that?
The cert zones are in the private cert site, which you can get to from the homepage. And you can look at the main map and find your address and zero in on it. And if that's too hard, or if you have trouble accessing it, I can try to help you.
Oh, that's not my question. My question is, what do I tell the neighbors? I have neighbors coming up to me. So what zone are we in? We hear there's a great deal of confusion at the town.
So those maps, I guess, are not public at the moment.
Good reason for that?
Because they have dots on them with people's names and phone numbers. In the old version, at least. So
Wait, the roster does. Are you sure the maps do?
I am not sure, but
There was a map layer on the Los Altos Hills website, the town website, that had not just our phone numbers, but our email addresses and our cell phone numbers. And then I asked, what's his name, Cody, to take that off, and he did.
But the real point is we are discussing switching from the old cert zones to zone haven zones.
Yes.
Or related to zone haven. So rather than, there's really not much reason for a non-cert person to learn the cert zones at this point. And the zone haven zones are all on the zone haven website. So you can just go to community.zonehaven.org and find your zone haven zone.
So
yeah, will the EOC be there?
If I published all the people go to community.zonehaven.com, they will achieve bliss.
Well, I believe it's .org, but that's from memory. So let me make sure.
Yeah, let me just pull it up.
Yeah, I don't remember what the last one is, but yes, Rick, that's correct. They'll know what their zone haven zone is, and we're internally looking at the old cert zones and then the new zone haven zones, and we will hopefully have that done. I don't know, guys, what do you think?
Don't know. We need buy off, and we need to figure out how to subzone. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so follow up on the emergency services manager. What we used to deal with the public service people at things like the parade is we would have people shadow, since apparently the people on this call know more about this than the public service paid people. How do you feel about having somebody just shadow this new person?
Do you mean the new person that's coming on? You're suggesting that we shadow them?
Well, in the commercial world, we would call it a mentor. Who's going to guide them? Because they're not going to get help from the new city manager. I'm sure he's wonderful, but.
So Rick, I am going to try to say that that's really good points and good ideas, but I'd like to at least move it out of the middle of drill planning.
Yeah, this isn't the right forum for that.
Okay, let's take it as a to-do.
I take that up with the town. Go ahead.
Right. I'm not trying to shut you down because I think it's a reasonable point and people
Yeah.
have talked to me about it. I just think we could spend a long time now on it.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure we do the slides. So Steve, I have a more stylish question, and it's really for everyone, not just for you. You and I believe Dave really covered it point for point what was in the position guide.
No,
And
that wasn't me.
No,
It might
certainly
have been
not me.
Janice. Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, and the other style is to talk about more a high level view and help people get the big picture without worrying about the details. And I went the second way. And I'm curious, if there's feedback from people watching it, or we can do it at the end, if there's a preference for one or the other, or it just doesn't matter.
Who's the audience? We're training people, right?
Well, I don't think of it as training, because I think of it as more as an orientation. So I think it
Depends. Yeah. So it
really-
depends what the meeting is. If it's orientation, you do one thing. If it's training, you do something different. So what is it?
I looked at more as a review of things we've already gone over, because people want to kind of get reviews of how things work.
Yeah, I had the same question as I was writing up my version of this, and I went high level with exactly the point that Neil made, which is they're not going to remember this detail. The handouts might be useful. And in fact, one of the things I was going to do was to just print out the documentation that Neil did on readthedocs.io, or, we can hand that out. That is pre-printed, ready to go. And for a lot of this level of detail, it wouldn't hurt for people to have this in a binder or in their backpack. But my problem with a lot of detail is you're not going to remember most of it. And what you want is a orientation to what it is we're trying to do and how the groups work together, so that the detail starts to make sense and fit into a framework.
That's how I thought that was going to roll too. So I like your suggestion, and I think we're doing this because we want to have people that are attending the drill be looking at this prior to the drill, right? So we send that information out that Neil put together. They'll already have that. We'll give it to them in hard copy too, because that's another great idea. And then we could kind of do more of a, because that's how I think this will work the best. Like you mentioned, Dave, is that we kind of do a quick overview, and then how they work together, what forms get passed, what their quick responsibilities are. But I think really getting down into the weeds is going to be difficult in an outside group setting, and these this could be looked at prior to the drill, and then have it in paper to look at in hand.
And to be clear, I think this is a discussion point, not that it's got to be one way or the other.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, right.
It's for some pieces of this, we probably do want to drill down a little bit.
So for mine, I could redo it to have less detail, but talk more about the flow of information between the different positions.
Yeah.
And the big things the IC is responsible for, they set the tone, they set, the high level view, 10,000 foot, not the go get the bin.
Yeah, it depends what the document's for. I mean, if an overview is a good thing to do, if that's the way we're headed, I'll redo the slides I did.
And I think I'm just making this up as I sit here, but I think if we do have an overview, the position guide was meant to be referenced and terse and easily printed and kept. But it'd be nice to capture the high level relationship thing also, because a lot of people, the problem with the details is you don't get how pieces connect together.
So that was a good question, Steve, because I think that's, obviously there might have been some confusion on that too. It's kind of like, what's the audience? What's the goal? So I think that's, thank you for bringing that up and saying that, because I agree with you. It's like, how are we going to, I think that's what Neil was trying to say, what are we really going to be presenting and what are we going to be overviewing versus, okay, so what I hear is we're going to focus more on flow, quick overview, quick, this is what the responsibilities are, and then how the flow works amongst all the roles. Is that kind of what we just kind of decided?
Yeah, I think so. That seems good.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
at one point.
It's not really in the other doc, so it's a good thing to understand how the different positions relate to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, at one point, I thought we could focus, in fact, on demonstrating that each of the roles sort of performing their function rather than talking about it. You know, the mayor's kitty cat is up in a tree. How does that come into the system? Well, that could come in through recon, and then it gets put on an incident report, you know, that kind of a flow, so that you would actually see this kitty cat report run through the different organizations and have each one of them put it in a binder or send somebody out to deal with it or go get a ladder, because that's what logistics does. And we didn't go that way. I still think it would be not a bad way to go. I just don't know how all of us coordinate a training that works that way.
Well, I'll try to cover it from the IC position's view, and maybe we can feed that into each of the positions, talking about what the flow is like for that position.
Okay.
You know, getting reports, sending reports to some other, to IT and so on.
Would it be beneficial to have an incident form that kind of makes its way through the
So I
different?
have that in my presentation.
Okay,
So why don't we wait
Yeah,
until
let's-
after you see that, and then
okay, cool.
All right, so we're going to go on to the next most important position in the incident commander.
I
Incident.
had one more request for you, Steve. You had it as a bullet, but since we rarely drill it and don't talk about it much, one of the IC responsibilities is to decide what shifts there are. And,
Yeah.
you know, set them up and send people home so they're there for the next shift. And it'd be great if you could make that point.
I think that was in there.
That was in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it was the confused, the question. I think it was the one that,
well, that one was about briefings as opposed to,
oh, okay. I thought you covered that, Steve, but okay.
I think I
We
did
might.
too. But there's lots of small print, so it's easy to.
But that's a good idea to, once you get some of these maybe taken out, that's one major role, right? So that would be a good thing to put in there.
and in particular, no one else touches that. That's all IC.
Yep.
Yeah, there's, make sure the staff gets breaks, decompress, eat, hydrate, and go home too.
And
And
my personal
I'll
pet
probably
peeve-
reword the thing with leads, so it's
yeah,
less ambiguous.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave, go
My-
ahead.
my personal pet peeve are people who use light gray fonts. Contrast was so difficult to achieve in the 80s. Let's have black and white text.
Okay, I'll check on why that happened. I think when I was composing it, it was in the dark
Yeah, I'm sure it
mode.
was just, it is so stylish these days, but it just drives me crazy.
I know, I kind of like it.
Yeah,
can't
well,
read it.
wait till
Good
you're
job on that,
66
Steve.
and can
Good
barely
job.
see things.
Well, I'm making my way there quickly. Good job, Steve, on that.
Okay, here's the next most important position in an incident. It's the ops and recon.
See, before going to that, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Sure.
Is there a consensus that to have, for each position to have one small list, say, what's the purpose and what's the process flow, so that it can be put in your shirt pocket, and whenever you get to each one, pull it out and say, what's the purpose of this and what's the process flow? Then the details, all those marvelous things that you have in presentation, they can be handouts that if somebody forgets, still they have to know what's the process.
That's in each of the bins for each of the positions, but it's not something you stick in your pocket. It's an 8.5 by 11.
Well, and
Well,
Victoria, didn't I just
if-
hand you that document yesterday?
If we put it next to the place, it's still, people can print and put in their pocket.
Let me run over to the other room. and-
Victoria, oh, maybe I can do it now. I was going to mute
Yeah.
Rick.
Sam, are you talking about during the drill or just in general all the time?
In general.
Okay. Yeah, we have this this, I don't know if you can, I just don't like Zoom. It's the black,
So that's an older printed position guide.
yes, this
And then
needs to be updated, but that was what I think I'm going to, once we kind of wade through some things, redo this. So I think you're right. That's really good, Sam, a good suggestion.
Okay, so I just want to point out, and I'm looking for feedback, everyone picked a different template for their slides, which is absolutely understandable because we didn't try to
Yes.
coordinate it at all. Does that matter? Do we care about a common look and feel, or is it, it's just not a problem?
I think it'd be professional if we could agree on one. I tend to use that green and white one because I've used it in the past with cert stuff. But I think the point you made to me offline was lots of color, just waste ink on the toner, and what we want is something we can hand out. So I think something more simple like yours is probably the right way to go.
Okay,
I like mine with the
And-
logo.
Yeah, well, you can add logos to just about anything.
I like the salmon color. So
once again, I don't care which template, I just, the other thing is, is each station going to give out their slides, or are we going to have a big stapled deck that we give out once?
So I wasn't thinking we were going to give out the slides. I was thinking that we could give out the detailed stuff, and then were we going to have a meeting to go over this? And
So
then
at the last meeting, we said we were going to give out the slides
okay.
because people retain better when they can both read and hear.
Okay.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
like the idea of handing them one sheaf of paper all stapled together and saying, okay, turn to page 3, kids.
Okay. Then I think if we're going to do it that way, we probably need to have this pretty uniform.
Yeah.
We could just combine PDFs.
I just
I
mean,
was-
I don't know. It's, yeah, it should be kind of at least.
Anyway, I'm good with it all being common. I have one more thing to throw out. If we're going to have one big deck, I'm going to suggest we somehow tab or color code or something the different sections to make it really easy to find that section of the deck. Whether it's a margin color or something else.
Okay.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did the more informal, breezy way. Mostly was, a couple of slides about what this is, introduce them to the forms. My proposal was to actually give them a copy of all 3 forms, which are 3 tabs in one document. You go look for them. And then actually practice, starting, actually, I guess it's 4 forms if you include an incident report, and practice going through. So this is the pre-planned one. The non-pre-planned one looks almost identical. I don't have it in this deck. And then there's an ops assignment form and an incident report. So my plan was to have pre-filled incident report and ops assignment form, just so we don't spend a lot of time on it. And I'm happy to use Dave's cat in a tree again, because I'm tired of burning down Drew's house. Those seem to be our 2 scenarios.
I always thought it was the mayor's kitty cat, but still.
Okay, maybe I'm associating with you because it was your example.
Well, I always use that, but you can use my cat since I don't have one anymore anyway.
And so that was that. So the high level, that was my plan. Is the slides were meant to take hopefully under half the time, and most of the time is walking through a scenario to give people a feeling for how the information would flow. I'm not planning on handling all the edge cases and all the weird stuff, and what if something falls on the arc, or what happens if you get interrupted halfway through. I'd like, again, I'm focusing on the high level basics, and I'm saying it out loud, so if people don't agree, they can suggest something different.
No, I
So
like that. When we get to mine, you'll discover I went even further in this direction.
okay, so what is operations? So you just heard from Steve, who showed you IC. IC decides what should happen and sets priorities. Ops goes and implements that plan. So In ops, as we do it, this isn't universal. There's really two parts. There's the ops section that takes care of thinking about how to implement the priorities and doing some short-term planning. And then there's recon that's in charge of actually working with people in the field and keeping headquarters up to date of what's going on and giving out assignments. We're not going to talk about some of the details, really important details, just to simplify this, of how do you assign people and decide who goes where and take people out of staging. You'll hear that from Janice later. Next slide. So in the this whole system came about over several years with many changes. We've always been paperwork bound in the past, where just a very low rate of requests coming in and tasks going out was enough to completely swamp the system, where we were literally hours behind in terms of keeping status up to date, and people didn't really know what was going on. And what we decided to do was take all of the normal stuff we do, which is surveying the town, and pull it out of the need for plans and orders and other things. So the whole goal is to simplify it and reduce down the amount of work we have to do so we can focus on just the unusual, special one-off stuff. We call that ad hoc tasks as opposed to pre-planned tasks. We have two forms to track what are going on. One is one page that tracks all of the pre-planned tasks, and a separate page that tracks the ad hoc things. Those are both as an attachment in your packet. We have another form that's a tasking request that tells Recon, here's a new ad hoc request, go ahead and make it happen. On that thing is a priority field that tells Recon whether it should preempt people in the field or do it whenever or do it after surveys are done. It worked well in our tabletops. We haven't ever used it in a full drill yet because of COVID. And we're hoping you will help us guinea pig it in the future. So next slide. So this is an example of the pre-planned thing. It's got the sequence that you can do things, critical infrastructure 1 through whatever. ZG is zone group, west 1, and there's north, south, and east also. We grouped our old cert zones together into lumps to make them a more reasonable amount of tasks. And we tried to keep it to on the order of, I think it's 30-ish different assignable pre-planned things plus critical infrastructure. The idea is if we have multiple recon teams, they can assign these things in parallel. They don't have to go sequentially one by one or in order. So they can assign a group to critical infrastructure or 4 groups to critical infrastructure if they want. And then when that's done, they can say, I'm going to have a team do west, a team do south, or whatever they decide. That's a recon decision. Okay, they can document on this which group is doing it, when it was started, some status updates of time and what's going on, and if it was completed. And the idea is recon can literally make a copy of this form and send it to everyone who needs to know. And this is a snapshot of where we stand in the field with our pre-planned surveys. There's a really similar form to this for the ad hoc ones, which I'm not going to put a slide up, but that has an extra column for priority that tells recon, how important it is and more important, how urgent it is, whether it preempts existing stuff or not. Next slide.
Why wouldn't that urgency be on the normals? The normal form?
Because the normal form is when you don't have other stuff to do. So there is no priority for this. This is what you do if you didn't have higher priority stuff. So one of the priorities for on the ad hoc stuff is below the pre-planned stuff, and all the other ones are higher than it. Next slide. So, and this just says it. In your packet, actually we'll get to in a second, there's a form that we sent to Recon telling them about this task. That form they can refer to give instructions. They can they have a section to fill out what the status is when it's all done. When it's all done, they make a copy and send it back to ops. And there's also a tracking sheet, which we talked about, that's also in your packet. Next slide. So now we're going to go through a scenario just to show you how it all works and what we would fill out where on the various forms. So just as here's what's going on. We'll go through it in more detail, but here's the high level view. The IC gets an incident report, decides it's important. Mayor's cat is in a tree is for this one. Ops generates an ops assignment forms and sends it to Recon with copies to the various folks. Recon adds it to the ad hoc tracking sheet. Recon periodically sends an update of the ad hoc and the pre-planned sheets to everyone else so they know where we stand and what's going on. And the IC or ops can ask for a custom, make me a copy right now because something's going on. And when the task is finished, they return it and mark it complete. Next slide. I forget what my next slide says. Oh yeah. So here's the attachments. Let's go to those attachments and we'll go talk through how it goes. And I'm not going to try to do that right now because I didn't pre-fill them out. But that's basically my plan for the talk.
I had one thought that I'm not remembering now.
Oh, good. I escape unscathed then.
I'll be back. Okay. Any questions for Neil?
And I didn't say it out loud. There's a link in the chat to all of the presentations that we have so far. If anyone wants to look at them, the ones that are Google Sheets, Google, whatever they call their presentation thing, you can actually put comments in if you want to leave a comment, later for people to fix stuff.
In these, Neil?
Or how to do a comment?
Yeah. Shall I show?
Please.
You commented on mine, so let me pull it up and I'll do mine. My videos are sticking over the comments. And Neil was working with me today and said, that's a lot of green, Dave. One thing I should point out real briefly is that I moved a bunch of stuff around in the Cert shared files folder. Everybody here has access into that. And there is a section for marketing material, including Steve Kellum's nice new Los Altos Hills Community Emergency Response logo. Need to clean up the corners here, but anyway.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Your screen is not showing the menu for how to show comments?
It isn't. I have, show comments. I think it's because it's in full screen. Yeah.
Okay.
How do I get out of full screen from here? Escape, maybe?
Also, if you have a white
There we
background, the
go.
white corners of the logo don't matter.
Yeah, there you go. I need to put all the people on a second monitor here so I can actually see what I'm doing.
But I could make those corners transparent.
Let's not go down that. Can you see the comments now, Neil?
I could see the comments. If the comments are the problem, I just want to make sure they are not shown by default. So if you could hover over the button to show them, just to the left of slideshow.
This one, yeah.
Yeah. So open comment history is how you can show them and add new ones.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing, you can see who else is watching. So I can see that Neil and that's probably Steve are all also in this document at the same time. So my SOP to giving the high detail was I took this off of the I think it was the FEMA ICS, and they talk about what planning is about. It's basically planning meetings, supervised preparation, et cetera, et cetera. This is really detailed eye chart. It doesn't really describe what it is we're going to be doing in Cert. And I always like to think about it in terms of what problems we're trying to solve. There's a lot of information moving around, and what we'd like to do is to provide some order in that chaos. Track, collate, and distill the information so it's understood, and provide a high level at a glance view of the situation. And those 3 sentences are just really hard to accomplish. So there's a bunch of work that goes on in the background. The other thing is that the town has asked us to provide summary reports. I think it's every 2 to 4 hours. We probably want to do it more often than that if we have high priority issues going on. Depending on our communication capability, we might in fact be forwarding off incident reports as they come in or get updated. But at a minimum, we want to be able to provide overall reports on what's going on in Los Altos Hills. And then there's sort of this fair weather planning where we're actually thinking about how information flows within the ARC, what equipment we need. We've been buying copiers because of the way we're now thinking about moving information around. We're actually up to 3 copiers now. That sort of stuff is also a planning, pre-planning, if you will. And then my last slide is really just to try and show the relationship of what's going on here. The planning group includes the information technology group, which is not an ICS function specifically, but we put it together out of trying to build this progress tracking and reporting to town, and also to do digital communications between the town and Cert. Particularly, we've been working on getting a new Wi-Fi link out to the ARC. So with computers at the ARC and scanners, we could and should be able to, for instance, scan our critical infrastructure survey forms, our incident reports, and forward those directly to town if in fact they want them and need them. But there's really 3 pieces of this planning process. There's a planning commander, I guess you'd call him or her, who's supposed to be organizing this. But there's really 2 functional pieces. One is the scribe. And the big piece of the scribe is to try and put everything up on one board so that you can walk up and get a sense of what's going on around town. So that's a map with stickies on it that say, this is where we're having problems, this is where our incidents are, as well as big log sheets, essentially, of the incident reports, and also to put copies of the incident reports up and to try and keep those updated. The idea there is that the operations lead, the recon lead, incident commander can all walk up and get a sense of how much is going on and where it's going on. The IT group is really more the back end of filing, reporting, and trying to keep track of our progress. One of the things we've discovered a bunch of times in doing this is, in a drill in particular, we will theoretically send somebody out to go deal with that kitty cat up in a tree, and then we never think about it again. So there's a bunch of structure and procedure in what's going on in the IT group, and it's really not very complicated. There's a file box, but the idea is that as incident reports come in with updates, we're going to give each one of them a number, follow them along, and be able to know that we've opened, or for every incident report that we open and decide we're going to do something about, we're capable of closing it. We take all of those, we build the reports to town and theoretically email them in. As I think it says in a couple of these other documents, we might actually put paper in a backpack and send somebody on a bicycle if necessary. But ideally, we'd like to have high bandwidth communication. There is a ham radio in the ARC. There is packet radio, I believe, still. Neil, can you confirm that? I think there is.
Victoria sent that equipment back.
Yeah, okay.
But I'd like to get it back.
Yeah, I would too. But anyway, we can use radio. One of the things that I've been concerned about generally is that we have one repeater in town. The EOC will be interested in using that. Cert wants to use it for recon. It's not clear how much other stuff will be able to go across. In certain drills, that has broken down completely and gotten bogged down too.
So Dave,
hence, yeah.
The EOC and the ECC aren't users of the repeater, or at least not primary users, because we have all the field folks.
Right. No, yeah, that is true. Okay. So my talk is basically this, is to talk over this slide and to say, you know, the purpose of planning is to make sure that everything's understandable, organize planning sessions from time to time when that's necessary, create an incident plan, which you can really think of as sort of the scribe board plus a little bit more to understand what we're actually working on and what sorts of things are high priorities. And then also to deal with shift rotation and the debrief, rebrief plan as we swap people in and out.
Do you
That's it.
want the scribe board set up so you can point at it and maybe some stuff pre-filled in?
I was planning on that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think scribe with a map and I think the last time we did this, we decided we were going to magnet glue incident reports on so you could just look at them. But I think you also still want to have, what do you call that, the log or the ledger of the incidents printed out on the big newsprint sheets.
Well, there was also one of the whiteboards had a row per, I don't know whether it's incident or task, how we're going to go use it.
Yeah, to me, the argument was always that we wanted it on paper so that we could save it. Nowadays, everybody's got a camera in their pocket, so it would be, I think, more advantageous to put it on the whiteboards directly and take photographs of them regularly.
Yeah, I guess the summary sheet replaces the old whiteboard by and large.
Yeah. You know, this is my problem with all of this is I understand all the problems we've had for 10 years. And as I start thinking about how these communication plans work, I keep having new ideas I want to try. And without a real drill, we won't be able to do that for a while. Anyway, questions,
I have a comment,
comments?
Dave.
Yeah, please, Steve.
Yeah, I have a comment. On slide 2, it seems like you should either say this is what planning is and not apologize for what ICS says it is.
Okay.
I mean, go one way or the other. Here's what planning is and list the stuff, or use your third slide and say, here's what planning is.
All right. Yeah, I was not happy with this slide for a couple of reasons. It seems a little too general, but I also didn't want to just copy out the text from the positions guide.
I like the third one. I mean, it's down home, tell us what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, at a gut level.
Here, I can fix this. Where's the delete button? There we go. No.
It's about the 5th from the top. Of course, the delete button.
Fixed. Okay. So I'll throw some back comments in. I think we've put up a couple of great ideas here of having an incident sort of pass through, and I can talk more about this Dave Kitty Cat incident and where that would end up, and among these groups, who's keeping track of what is going on with that kitty cat. I guess the question I would throw out to the group is, you've now seen sort of very detailed, medium detail, very low detail which way do you want to go with it? Or do we wait until, I think Janice is still on, right? I don't want to waste all of our time.
I also have my presentation as well.
Okay, well, let's hold that question until we've actually seen a couple more and see what goes on. Amita, that was your voice, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I got my screen up so I can't see anything. Do you have anything here? Do you want to share?
I sent it to your email. I am having trouble actually accessing the Google Drive. It's freezing when I open it, so there's something wrong with my Google Drive. So I just sent it to you.
Okay.
Email.
I got it. Does this
Mine
look
is-
right?
Yep, mine is
Okay.
very basic.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll do a quick overview of it. This is for the spontaneous volunteer team. Next slide. All right, so the goal of the spontaneous volunteer team, the volunteer citizens, they play an important role in a disaster situation. With the right guidance and knowledge from Cert, volunteer citizens will be able to support our emergency personnel and provide valuable assistance where needed. Next slide. The materials that we need, along with every other position, we need our vest, a volunteer sign-in sheet, clipboards, pens and pencils, note papers, the volunteer T cards for them to sign in on, volunteer sign-in forms, the citizen volunteer sign-in forms, and then the volunteer T cards for them to sign in on, or that's for them to check in on, correct? So we have our T cards.
No, I
Yeah,
don't think you're gonna have separate T cards, but you do have the volunteer sign up form.
Okay. They don't have separate T cards? We don't have any for them?
We don't have any pre-done ones, and I'm guessing staging or check-in will generate them a custom one.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think we've ever thought about it in this detail. Do you think you would do your own T cards rather than check-in?
I don't know. Do you guys think it's necessary to have that, or should we just stick with the volunteer sign-in forms?
Well, I think they need a T card. I guess the question is which station should do it.
Oh, okay, got it. Then I think it's the station that should do it.
I'm
So-
sorry, I didn't. Which station do you think?
I
should
think
do it?
it's this station, the spontaneous volunteer station, that should do it. That should have their T cards.
Yeah, it should be central. It should be one person who does it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but
Because,
that means we have two different groups issuing T cards.
yes, but then onto my next slide, I can explain why. So the immediate actions that we need to take, we need to obtain a radio from the communications team, put on our volunteer vest, spontaneous volunteer vest, and of course, organize and set up our area. So we have our citizen volunteers fill out their volunteer sign-in form. And then as I had put here, fill out the volunteer T cards, make sure they're filled out correctly. But in this station, what we're going to be doing is also tracking them at all times. Spontaneous volunteers need to be supervised at all times. So it doesn't necessarily need to be, I guess, a spontaneous volunteer team that's tracking this, but I feel like it's best to, since they will be probably continuously coming back between staging and this station. So I don't know if I guess we can decide afterwards, but I feel like it might be a good idea to have this station track them. The volunteers will then be sent into the check-in team and then directed to staging for their actual assignment, but they have to be supervised 100% of the time. Next slide.
Can I just ask a question about the previous slide?
Of course.
And this is directly out of the whatever it is, the position guide. This isn't you, but do we have red T cards?
I don't know, actually.
I've never seen them.
I haven't either. I've never seen them either. So this is directly out of the positions guide, that specific line.
Yeah, I copied it from the previous guide without really thinking hard about it.
Got it.
Do we have a red marker? Maybe they get a red stripe.
Yep. Makes sense. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Not a problem. Okay, so now the spontaneous volunteer team CERT duties. We will be checking in the volunteers, filling out their volunteer forms with them. We swear in the volunteers as disaster service workers, help them fill out their volunteer T card, as we mentioned. We will be supervising and leading the volunteers prior to them receiving their assignments and supervising them at all times, so they're not to be left alone. They will be reporting to, or we will be reporting and communicating directly with the logistics lead as well, keeping accurate and up-to-date records of all these spontaneous citizen volunteers at all times, and keeping the volunteer staging area clear of all vehicles and remembering that safety is first. Next slide and last slide. The spontaneous citizen volunteer duties, they are able to help with logistics, transporting equipment, running our food stations, communicating also with logistics and helping with running errands, assisting with the check-in table, and assisting our recon team only if there are 2 to 3 recon teams present with the spontaneous citizen volunteer. And that's it.
Okay, this may be opening up something much longer than we want to get into, but I think as we think about how you're supervising and where these T cards are being generated and going, unless you're really thinking you're going to stage one cert with every 1 or 2 of these people, you know, I can see them getting assigned to recon, and then we're going to have to think about where the T cards go and who's tracking them and how do they track the fact that they're a volunteer and out with a recon team. And we won't solve that now, but it turns into, actually, we continually have had difficulties with both tracking how incidents progress, and it was kind of late in the game that we started really thinking about we need to keep close track and be able to track where our personnel are at all times. And I would say neither of those procedures are fully formed yet. So when I think about these T cards, it just opens up all sorts of questions about how we actually track these. That's not a slam on this presentation. It's just a concern I have.
Yeah, and I would offer on that. This is Larry. One of the things that I would remember from early in the program was the idea that spontaneous volunteers would remain at the ARC area rather than possibly be sent out on assignments. I think there's a certain amount of logic in the original thought that until you knew how comfortable or how professional your volunteers were, you wouldn't want to send them outside the ARC location. And my other comment that I was wondering about, we issue wristbands. Would it make sense to issue a different color wristband to spontaneous volunteers?
We could, now that we have the nice badges, we could also give them a different temporary handwritten name badge. And that would be the other way to easily tell people apart.
Yep, I think that's a great idea. We should absolutely separate spontaneous volunteers and have some way to ID them visually.
If they're visually identified, I'm not so sure you would have to essentially shadow them, because everyone would then recognize that, oh, we've got somebody who's not that familiar, and we would be at least making sure they weren't places they shouldn't be. And so
Anita, do you have
can I interject really quickly? I had a conversation with Marcia about spontaneous volunteers, specifically because we now have the potential of having teens coming to help at the ARC. Larry, you're correct. You know, the hope would be that they would be around the ARC area so they kind of have eyes on them most of the time. But she also said that if they were to get you know, sent on a recon team, that it had to be between 2 and 3 people, just to make sure that you know, 2 people could have the same story, 3 people, it's kind of hard to have the same story. So I think that's kind of where that came in, because I talked to Amita about this earlier, and just kind of put some things in that Marsha and I had discussed. I also think that we need to look at doing, you know, with our spontaneous volunteers, we're probably going to be giving them a vest and potentially a helmet. You know, we could definitely work on some kind of identification for them. But that's sort of where this conversation was going. But I think this is, again, a separate conversation. We could probably talk about this all night. But I want to make sure we get to Janice's presentation and then come up with our plan for the next time we get together and how we're going to sort of be kind of curtailing these presentations to make sense at each of the stations.
Yeah.
Amita, you also had donation management. Do you have a slide deck for that?
Did I? I thought I only had spontaneous citizen volunteer. Let me double check. So to answer that, no, I do not have slides for that.
Okay.
I can create slides for that, just so we can add it to the folder, but in the, hold on, let me pull up the position guide.
Well, it's not in the position guide, but in the email that I sent on Feb 23rd at 7:30-ish. That's what I'm going from for the assignments.
Okay, let's see. Spontaneous volunteers and donations. I can add it to these slides. I don't have anything for that, but
Okay,
definitely happy to add.
I'm not trying to call you out, just
Yeah.
trying to make sure we don't.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I can add it. I see that in your email now. But happy to add that.
Thank you.
Of course.
I had a point to Larry and Victoria's point about incompetent citizen volunteers. A different class of citizen volunteers we're likely to see are people who didn't want to get fingerprinted 5 years ago. And I can also see some people who we believe to be fairly competent certs, but also unaware of the modern procedures and whatever. And you know, when you think about who these citizen volunteers are, I think we're going to have to be cognizant of who they are and how much training they have, whether they're teens or, you know, 10-year veterans who just haven't been to a meeting in 10 years, and assign appropriately.
Agreed.
So I think this presentation gives a good overview of what the current policy is, which is all we're going to present in May.
Yeah.
And
good, excellent point.
I do think it's a little detailed, especially if you're going to do donations also in terms of time. And this is the whole, you know, are we trying to present all the trees, or are we trying to give a forest level view?
Yeah. One of the things that I thought of as we went through this slide, the materials needed, is, you know, we really don't need to tell people that they need clipboards and pens and notebooks. And I think all the slides can remove that sort of stuff. It's really what's unique to the position rather than office supplies.
We can just say the stuff's in the bin.
Yeah. Or just office supplies. But for instance, you know, if we think we're really going to do red volunteer T cards, that's an important point. I think that's something that we need to figure out, really. Okay. Other comments, or shall I hurry us along to Janice's presentation? I don't see, oh, Janice is with Larry. Okay. Janice, are you ready to come on?
Sure. Yep, I'm here.
All right.
Okay.
You're on.
Okay, welcome to check-in. This is your first contact with the CERT command post. The command post is what we're calling the area where we set up around the arc. And we want to make everyone who enters the command post to be authorized to be there. And so first thing you need to do is verify that you're on the cert list, and the check-in person will have the cert list. Then if they are in that list, there will be a T card for them, which you give to them, and put a band on their wrist and send them to staging. Next. How do we do?
Just say next slide.
Next slide, please. Okay, why verify? If you're a cert on our cert list, you have already been registered as a Los Altos Hills Disaster Service Worker. But if you're not on the list, we will register you as a DSW worker for the duration of the present event. Next slide, please. And I do not have an image of the T card, which it says I do. And the T card is, it says it hangs in a rack. I don't know, does that description sound right? As I recall, the T card is put into a slot on a board that the staging has.
Yeah, it's pretty much that. We've got, it's a pocketed board.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think you have to worry about the right words, because you
Yeah.
should have a physical one to point to, and
Okay.
that'll make it obvious.
Yeah, we'll take
Okay,
that.
next slide. So why a wristband? Lets everyone know that you've been processed by the check-in officer, and it allows you to leave on assignment and return to the command post without having to go through it again. And when you are done for the day, you are to turn in your T card to check-in and give them your wristband. Questions?
Next.
Next slide.
I just want to comment that I like this. I think it's the right level of detail.
Me too. I thought it was really good.
And I think it was great how you used some terms, but defined them right away. So there was no room to be puzzled. I thought you did a really good job on that part.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So next thing I am to talk about is staging. And at staging, you'll be checked in to see if you have all the equipment you need. And you'll be asked about the skills that you have. Then you'll be given an assignment. And to be ready, you have to have your proper dress, which includes boots, not sandals, long pants, not shorts, etc. And got to have your Cert helmet, your vest, your goggles, your gloves, all of that equipment that we have hopefully in our Cert backpack or Cert container, whatever you keep your stuff in. And you need the Cert issued tools such as the gas turnoff wrench, safety tape, etc. Next slide, please. Skills evaluation. Once your equipment and PPE are evaluated, you'll be interviewed to determine what assignments you may expect. And the skill evaluation examples. What is your experience in Cert positions during past drills? Are you a ham radio operator? Do you have your radio? And are you a driver with vehicle available for assignment? Next slide, please. Assignments. The field assignments would be from recon teams sent to the field to assess damage. And the team would have to have a driver, a ham radio operator, and a scribe, 3 people. And that we have in the past had them all in the same vehicle. And then we talked other drills that, well, we'd have to have separate vehicles so I don't pass along COVID, but I don't know, I guess now we can put them all in the same vehicle. Then the other assignments would include logistics, where the teams will be sent out to obtain supplies, then bring them back to the ARC area. And we would need a courier to transfer material to and from the Los Altos Hills Town EOC. An on-site assignment could include being the recon net control, scribe, and messenger, I should say. And the assistance for check-in could be one of your assignments, or scribe, recon officer, operations officer. Then also you could be assigned to staff the donation station, DSW registration, et cetera. And I don't know what else the et cetera stands for, but maybe somebody does. Okay, next slide. So when you're finished with your assignment, you are to return to staging for possible new assignment. If you are done for the day, you are to take your T card to the check-in officer and then depart. Questions? Okay, next slide.
That's it. That's the
Got it?
end.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Again, I like this level of detail. I think it helps that you're describing what happens to people as they come in. I don't know that I can do that when I describe planning,
Mhm.
but I like this approach because it makes it pretty clear, what has to get done. You're processing people and you're describing to them what is going to happen to them.
Yes, because, whoever does this position may never have done it before. So you need to give them some details.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're describing it from the perspective of the Cert who arrives, and that would be representative of the people who are taking training, which I also like. I'm trying to think how I would do this with information processing we would handle in planning. Take that Dave Kitty Cat incident report and describe how I would process it and where it would go.
Mhm. Okay.
Janice, I had two comments, one of which, and I also thought it was really good and liked it.
Oh,
The first one is, I think on the page, slide 7.
Which is what? Skills evaluation.
Sorry, the previous slide. It's basically, I would put, in the first paragraph, one of the problems we have with people in staging is sometimes you have to wait for a while as we figure out what to do with our people. And so I think this is a golden opportunity to set that expectation that you may have to wait while we, get set up and figure out what we're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
I would support that. This my experience when I was down at the county with the ham radio efforts, that sometimes in our drills, the only complaint we got was from people saying, gee, I stayed in staging forever. And so that, I think, is your very appropriate comment, and then we should make sure they understand, and maybe even have some chairs or benches for them for the time that they have to wait.
We do have, but anyway, it always comes up. No bullet on a slide will solve it, but I just want to make sure we address it.
Yeah.
The other thing I had was slide 8 rather. I thought probably was more specific than you really wanted. I don't think we have to list all the different things you might do. I think I would have stayed, I would suggest you consider, staying at higher level. You might be given an on-site thing or an off-site thing, and then when you're done, come back, which I guess is the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Because this basically lists most of the positions in the ARC and many out of the ARC. And I think what we really want to say is staging will try to match you with something appropriate to your skills and desires.
Mm-hmm.
I think
that's a good point. Okay, is that all the presentations?
Bridget, do you have one?
I did not get an assignment.
You have comms and logistics.
I do? I did not know that. I don't, I kind of missed last week on Thursday. I thought, weren't we supposed to have a cert meeting on the 23rd? And so yeah, maybe I missed my assignment.
Okay,
So
I'm
what
not
do
trying to force it down your throat, but
It's okay. So what?
they
I
were
was
on your
wondering that
acceptable list
myself.
when you submitted
So what is the assignment?
communications and logistics.
And logistics. Okay, and I can find the details to make the slides from the presentation you've created. I have something here. Cert positions guide.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right here.
Well, I have it. I've had it on my computer for a while.
Okay.
Okay, all right. And it's
But-
communications and logistics?
correct.
Okay. All right, I will work on that.
Thank you.
Oh, we actually have a logistics. Good job, Neil.
So don't know how up to date it is, but we definitely have words on paper.
Well, I'm really
Um,
glad I saw these presentations so I can tailor it more to what you all like.
So we talked about wanting to have a common, so I think we're done with all the presentations. I wanted to make sure we covered at least one more thing, which is we talked about having a common template. I have a very low, non-existent level of graphic art skills. So my slides tend to look very, very plain. I was wondering if anyone with design sense wants to do a common template that we can then go copy our bullets into.
I gotta say, I'm kind of fond of Janice's, which is why I pulled it up here.
Yeah, I also like Steve. Maybe the logo a little smaller.
Let's see, where's Steve's? Nope. Yeah,
Well, we know Dave
Again.
hates it because of the color, but that's easily fixable.
well, no, I just want darker fonts so that I can read it.
I have a question about how we're going to use these. Are we going to have bulletins or large poster boards of these pieces of information? Or are we just going to say it verbally in front of these people?
So what we did several drills ago, which I just mentally copied, was everyone has a piece of paper, a sheath of papers with all the presentations on it, and then just talk through it, not try to point at a board.
Okay. So we would hand these out before or to everyone before we start putting them at the various positions?
Yeah, if we have one handout with all of it, I imagine you get one at check-in and then you carry it around with you.
Yeah. Well, now you mentioned getting it at check-in. I thought I understood there would be people distributed to each of the positions before the event started.
Well, by check-in, I mean you have to sign the 211 before we do anything else anyway. So that's what I mean by the check-in.
Okay. So, all right, makes sense. Thank you.
I was not thinking we would do wristbands and a formal check-in with T cards. Does anyone disagree with that?
I think that my comment would simply be that for the T card, I would suggest that stated that the check-in would have a sample to show, or for that matter, just give. We have a bunch of blank T cards. Last time I looked at the training room, and it's a unique piece of paper that most people would never have seen.
I absolutely agree. Janice needs visual aids. So the board with a selection of T cards put into it. My question is, do we make people fill out T cards or find their T card as part of signing in for the drill? And I was proposing no.
Yeah, I was always under the impression that the T card was about following you around as you switched out of one position and into recon and left the building. But if we're just going to bring everyone around the parking lot and talk to them, there's no real reason for the T cards other than as a visual aid.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to kind of waste materials if we don't need to, right? So I agree. I don't think we need all that.
Okay. So I think we covered everything we said we were going to go cover, and I want to thank everyone who did their presentations and thank everyone else for listening to it and giving feedback. Next meeting and what's the next deliverables?
Neil, can we back up for just a second here and agree that we're going to use Steve's template?
As long as we put in page numbers, I'm good.
And I'll update the colors so that you can actually read the text.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll probably
And-
put in the template in Google Sheets.
I can
Yeah.
try.
Yeah. I'll have to figure out how that works too.
I think if I just upload it, it should work.
Okay. If nothing else, I can take yours and scribble all over it and it'll be the template. Okay. Sorry, Neil.
That's fine.
Back to you.
Well, I just, when's the next time to meet and, the next set of goals we want to accomplish?
Let's start with the next set of goals.
Is there a meeting this Saturday?
There's
is it May?
There's our
It's-
cert graduation.
Yeah, it's
Cert
the
graduation.
cert
okay.
graduation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and the final exam, the academy, whatever you call it.
Yeah. Cert,
The
the
practical.
cert skills graduation day. That's what I call it.
Right.
Very
But
wordy.
not a
but
meeting.
Not a meeting. We want to give
Uh,
people a week or two to kind of process what we talked about tonight and then redo presentations and then kind of do a run through. Or would you guys like to do a week?
I'd like to go 2 only because I'm going to be busy getting fire extinguisher stuff ready this week.
That was what I was thinking too, because I know some of us are helping and stuff. So that takes up a whole Saturday and prep and all that. So I would make the suggestion that we'll do it in 2 weeks. And then the goal is to get everything on the one template, kind of update what we've talked about. Does that work or am I way off?
So
Works for me.
I think it's a reasonable amount of time. The 16th is, at least on my calendar, the reserve cert general meeting for drill prep. I have on my calendar, maybe no one else's.
Mm,
Oh, that's
then
right.
we
We
would-
did say that, didn't we?
Now, I don't mind having the detailed meeting, that's the general, here's what's going on in the drill, give you a background. Here's how you find the position guide. Please read it before. We can have our meeting immediately after that if you want. I just want to make sure we don't forget about it.
So that meeting isn't on my calendar. You said that was a general cert meeting on the 16th of March?
Yes,
Okay.
my recollection is back when we were picking the drill date, we said we needed, a meeting or two where we wanted to talk about the drill to get everyone ready for it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I remember that. I just don't have it on my calendar on the 16th, so, but I think that's fine.
It's probably because I haven't sent it out yet.
Okay.
So I need to do that. Thank you for the reminder.
I like
So is it
Neil's
okay if
idea
we-
of doing it after.
Me too. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
The good part of that plan is if we have any certs who might not have joined on their own, but might stay on because it's after, in theory, we might get a few extras.
Yeah, I like that idea. All right, we're getting lots of hands up and go for it, looks like. So I will update the whole group for the March 16th. And then I think we have our, oh, don't start yawning, Neil. I'm barely making it as it is here. Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Good job, everybody, in your presentations. I was really impressed. And I think this is going to be really successful. And I appreciate you all and your hard work.
Thank you. Neil, can you hang on for a couple seconds after everybody else does? I want to ask you a question.
Sure thing.
Let me make, I'll make Neil the host. That way I don't hang up on you guys.
Okay.
Make host. Okay, cool.
And it looks like you stopped the recording. Is that correct?
Did I?
No, it's still
You
running.
gotta stop it.
I
It's still
can,
running.
there, I'm turning it off.
Thank you.